Welcome to my channel of Essential Training of Java Programming. Today we are going to learn about the variables and we are going to use those variables in our simple Java program. So let's begin. To start the variable, first of all we have to know about some of the important things here, which are the primitive data types. And these primitive data types represents the types of data. And if you'd like to go through what those primitive data types are in Java, you can go into the Oracle docs where you can get all those informations. So if you want to represent any integer number, you can use int as a data type, and it is going to represent the integer types of data. So if you would like to represent some byte, then you have to use the data type as a byte in here. So all those information has been provided here. So please go through these things. Better, it's going to clarify what data types are. Generally, data types are used in our program to represent its types. Let's say if you are going to use integer, then we have to use data types as an integer in our program. Just like that, if you would like to use some long type of data in decimal format, at that time we can use long or double. So these are the double types of data. So simply, you should understand that there are different varieties of data, and based on the different variety, we have to select our data types in our simple program. So if you want to get some more information, you can go into this Oracle docs and you can get all those informations here. Alright, so now I'm going to show you how we can use variables in our simple Java program. So I'm going to demonstrate those things. So let's begin. So now straight away I just came here in my Eclipse IDE. Now this Eclipse IDE is open and I have already created one Java project here, and the name of that Java project is Simple Java. So if you'd like to create the Java project, you can go into this file and you have to just go into this new, and then you can see here the Java project, and after just providing the name there, you can create the simple Java project. So I have already done it there, so I'm not going to do it here. And after creating this Java project, we're gonna have, there's a source folder. So after getting this source folder, if you click in here, if you click in this source folder, there is nothing. So simply, uh, this Java project represents some JRE standard libraries and source folder, and our main aim is to work in the source folder. So you have to go and just right click in this source folder, and then we have to go in here, and after clicking this new button, we are going to have different uh, references here, but our main interest is to create the simple package. So I'm going to write a simple package, so we can say this as week 1. Okay, so we have been creating this package in our Java project. So okay, so we have created this simple uh, package in our source folder. So after going through this package, now we have to create a simple class. So simple class should be created. So to create a simple class, we have to go into this class and we have to click here. Okay, so this is the interface we have got here where we can create the class. So to create the class, let's say we are going to work with the variables. All right, so we can say that simple program. Okay, so always there is a standard, like when you have to create a class, the class name should always be capital. So you have to keep that thing in your mind. And in here, we need one main methods in our class. So I'm going to click here to generate one main methods. So main methods need to be inside of the class. So this is the one recommended things. And after creating this class name will be the program name. Okay, so whatever the class name here, this class name will be the file name. So here you can see simple program, that is the class name, and that class name will be the file name in Java. So this is the standard we have to maintain. So after creating that file, we can see here inside of this class we have created one main methods, and in here this main method is public static and it's not going to return any value. That's why it's void, and it's going to take the string arguments as in arguments, I mean as an input. So we have to maintain this type of main methods in any class in Java at this moment. So today we are going to talk about the variables. So we can write something about variables. So what is variables? First of all, we have to know about the variables. Okay, might be we should get the knowledge about these variables. Generally, variables is a name given to the uh, Java to capture the value. So when you want to store some value, at that time we must give some variable, and that variable can hold that value for us, and it's a name identifier. So let's say if you want to store two data, at that time we have to create two variables. Okay, so one variables is to store the one single value, and another variables is going to hold another value. So generally this variables is used to hold or to store the value, the data in it. So variables are named as the name identifier, so we can use it in our programs. So in any programs in computer, like we are talking about variables here, variables has a very high importance because we are going to hold those data in here. So how to create the variables? So to create the variables, first of all we should think about what kind of data it is going to store. So we have to first determine those things. And as I have told you, there are many primitive data types in Java which represents different types of data. So in our case, let's say if we would like to store integer type of data, then we must use data types in the beginning. So let's say int, and you should give the name like for that variables. So if you would like to store some first variable, I mean if you'd like to store the some value, then you can put like here number. Okay, number, and you can assign the value here, or you can even first you have to just declare the variables. So this is called the variable declarations. So you can write it here as the variable declaration. So variable declaration is, first of all you have to use the data types, and just you have to write the name for that variables. So this is the first things we have to do while declaring the variables. Then these variables can be used for storing or holding the value. So we have defined this number as the integer type of variables. Then it means it can only hold the integer types of data. So just we have to go in here and just we can write, and it can hold the value 5. Okay, so it means it is now going to hold only the integer types of data. So if you now would like to show what value is in there in that particular number variables, then you just have to use system.out.println. So here you can say that the value is stored in the variable called number is. Okay, then you have to just use this sign plus sign to concatenate, and just you have to write the variable 9 there. So then after it's done. So now let's save this program. Okay, now let's save this program and run it again. Okay, so in here in our console window we have seen the output. So what output we have got here? The output we have got here is whatever we have written inside of these two quotes. You can see here the value stored in the variables called number is. So what value is in there? So 5 value is in this number. So now we can see the exact number has been represented here instead of that variable's name. So it means the variables always represents and holds the value in there. Okay, so value in it. So whatever value you store there, it is going to hold that value. So that is the variables. Now let's take another example. All right, so now I'm going to take two variables. Okay, so in the program generally we have to keep the inputs and we have to store that input value into the input variables, and we have to do the processing in that, and then after we have to also assign those processed value into the output variables, and just we have to print the result. That's it. So that is the simple programming. So I'm going to use that concept here. So generally what I'm going to do here, take one I'm going to take one integer variables for input purpose. So I'm going to just take this number. Okay, so it means now I'm going to take one number, that's the variables of the type integer, and now I'm going to assign the value. Okay, I'm going to assign the value there, but before assigning that value I also like to create another variables which I'm going to call the output. Alright, so we have got these two variables. So the first variables here is for input purpose, so we can call that as input variables. So we have just used the single variables here, so you can write variable, and then after you can write here output variable. Okay, so we have declared these two variables in the beginning, so these all are the part of the declaration. Okay, so this is a part of the declaration. So after declaring these two variables, then we have to go down to the next step and we can take the value. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just assign the value. Let's say in here I'm going to assign the value 5 again. So what I want as an output, in my output I want the square of the number. So to get that value, what I'm going to do here, in the output variables I'm going to multiply the input variables, that is the number. So I'm going to do number into number. So what I've done here, I have used these input variables and I have multiplied that input variables twice. I mean, I have multiplied by itself, and we have got the square of the number, and I have assigned that output into the output variables. Now the processed value, that is number into number, is now assigned into the output, and if I'm going to print this variable, that output, then we can see the square of the number. So if you'd like to do some formatting, so you can also do the formatting in here, but for simple I'm just going to keep system.out. Okay, system.out.println. Okay, and we can say that the square of the number is, where is that number? That number is located in where? That is in the output. So you can write plus and just use output. So if you go in here and if you save this program and if you run this program, so look at here, the square of the number is 25. So we can get result. So we have got the input variables where we have got some value, we have initialized some value there, and we have done the processing on that input variables, and after doing that processing we have assigned that value into the output variables, and finally we have printed out that output variables, and in this way we have got the output. And if you'd like to do some formatting, okay, just you have to see here and you can try. Okay, so instead of println, just you have to write printf. Okay, and you can write the uh, value. Okay, just I'm going to use the square of, okay, the square of what number? D is percentile D. So in here we have given the number, we have represented the number in terms of percentile D. Okay, so the square of percentile D is percentile D. So now we have to specify what this percentile D is for. So in the argument we have to pass the value. So in here in the argument I'm going to pass the value as the number. So this first percentile D is represented by the value called number, and we have to also pass the second arguments. And what is the second arguments here? Percentile D, that is the output. So you have to write output in here, and finally you have to enclose by the semicolon. And let's say the difference between these two outputs. So let's go. Alright, so the square of 5 is 25. So in this way, you can print out your result. So in the first one, you have seen just the square of the number is 25. But in the second one, you can specify the square of 5 is 25. So this is the best technique you can even apply in your codings. Thanks for watching my video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my channel. Thank you.